All right, if you're still doing all your notes by hand, we need to talk. Athelis AI Scribe is changing the game. You walk in, you talk to your patient like you normally would, you treat them, and boom, your notes are drafted in real time, thanks to AI. No voice commands, no clicking around. It just listens and writes like a scribe, but smarter. People are cutting their documentation time by 90%. That's not a typo, 90%. That's actual feedback from real clinicians using it now. You want to see it in action? Go to athelis.com and take a test drive. That's ATHELAS.com and say goodbye to after hours charting.
Like your patients want it. And if you get something you know your patients. So when you're looking at platforms, get something you know your patient's going to want, that's going to help them. So there's totally a need for it. It does take some startup time to figure out the process.
Sure, all good things should.
But it's going to allow you to afford to give your patients better care and support your staff in different ways,
Imagine packing up your life, your family, and your clinic job to live full-time in an RV. Now imagine that instead of leaving physical therapy behind, you're bringing it with you. Rethinking how care is delivered, how therapists earn, and how the passion evolves. That's exactly what today's guest did. He's not just logging miles on the road, he's paving a new path for therapists looking to work remotely, earn on their terms, and finally unlock the how behind one of the most talked about opportunities in physical therapy right now, remote therapeutic monitoring. Now, while most of the profession is still trying to figure out the what, he's teaching clinicians how to launch and scale and get paid for RTM services without needing to own a clinic or be tied to a desk. He's a husband, dad, traveler, and the go-to resource for therapists who want freedom and impact, all from wherever the Wi-Fi connects. Say hi to the physical therapist redefining modern care delivery, to Matt Jurek on PT Pintcast.
I'm kind of like approaching this a little bit as independent versus tied to any platform or anything.
Understood.
Yeah.
Well, how you been, man? Welcome back to the show. Good to see you again.
Yes, it's awesome. It's always a pleasure, Jimmy. Thanks.
Not many guests I have to ask, where are you? But in your case, because your job sort of allows you to be wherever the hell you want. Where are you right now?
That's so true. We just rolled into Eastern Tennessee, so just outside the Smokies.
And when you say rolled into, just if someone didn't listen to the first episode we did, where do you live? Tell me about your domicile.
Yeah, that's okay. So my wife and I, we're both physical therapists, and we've been doing full-time travel in an RV for 5.5 years now. Yeah, it's been pretty fantastic. Mm-hmm.
Who was the first to pitch this? Was this you? Was this your wife? I don't know if I asked that before.
It was my wife, and I was hesitant.
Really?
Yeah, it was. We were kind of, doing the grind, shuttling the kids. We had real young kids at the time. Before or afterwards, I commuted 45 minutes, worked 10-hour days, and so I barely saw them except for my one daddy day. And should we do something else with our life? And
yeah,
the talk started there, and then had a couple things happen in our personal lives, and we're like, well, life is honestly way too short. So if we're thinking about it, why not? Why not? So we gave ourselves a year, started out as contract PTs. One parent would homeschool, the other one would do, the 3-month contract gig and see cool stuff in between. COVID happened, which was interesting. Tried to figure out what we were going to do for ourselves. I think there was, probably 1,250 travel jobs for us to choose from. And then the day after the shutdowns happened, yep. I think there was two. I think there was just two companies that forgot to pull them,
Right.
And so, so we had to figure that out, but things started opening back up. I'm pretty much an outpatient guy. It's what I stick to. It's my gig, my MO. Leah's much more flexible. She's spent time directing in assisted livings and that kind of thing. So those settings started opening up more gradually to travel therapists. So she did some of that work. And then I went out, we did visited friends because we launched from Oregon, basically, even though our family's in Indiana. So we weren't opposed to traveling, as you can tell from the get-go.
Yeah.
But did a contract with my old employer. He's a buddy of mine. he said, yes, we love you. Come and work for me for 3 months. And so that was right at the beginning of 22. I think my contract started like right at February. And I said, Justin, I'm mobile. I've got time. How can I help you from the road? And he said, have you ever heard of anything called RTM? I was like, no. So figure it out for me. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have the bandwidth, and just dig in. So that opened up a huge door. So since 22, um, me digging in, seeing the people side of things, knowing that so well, what it looks like to run a clinic, and then what is RTM? There was a disconnect. The software guys don't know how to talk clinic shop. The clinic shop doesn't know how to
Right.
put in a new workflow. And so I stepped in that bridge, called myself a consultant, and that's what I've been doing since pretty much.
Good for you.
I still run the RTM program remotely for my buddy too.
It's the way to do it. So you said this before. It's you're not the quarterback because that's the person in the clinic. You're not in the clinic. You're not on the sideline. You're like you're like the offensive coordinator with the headset on up in the skybox, but the skybox can be anywhere.
Yeah, it can be anywhere, and it can be in the office of the clinic to anywhere and in
It doesn't
between.
have to be.
But it doesn't have to be, right? It
Right.
doesn't have to be. It kind of allows that, and that's a cool place. Um, trying to figure out how to take advantage of being remote. What can I offer from what I've learned in my 1.5 decades of being a PT? And there is a movement, and I'm sure you're aware of it, where there's a surplus of PTs that now want to be remote,
Of
trying
course.
to find these different jobs and stuff. Um, and I say, you know what? A lot of those folks, it's a really cool happenstance. We were going to do Christmas in Arkansas, Hot Springs, Arkansas. Okay, let's do it there. It's a little warmer than central Indiana, where our
Sure.
family is, and then we'll work our way south as winter progresses. So on the way down, I had he's now a friend of mine, reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, I'm in the PT world. My dad owns a few PT clinics. He's like, I'm wondering if RTM is something I can do remotely for him and then maybe scale it because I've got a lot of different connections of, friends that own clinics in Arkansas. Maybe I could be the Arkansas RTM guy or whatever." So we
Right.
just sat down over a beer, and which is where a lot of good talks happen. And I was like, yeah, dude, I'll help you. And so from that spurred me because if there was one of those guys, there was at least, you know, 1,000 more somewhere out there in the country. So um, what I found is where RTM becomes very valuable is a part of the team runs it. So a part of the clinic team, if you will, allocating one of your staff. Maybe it's a motivated staff member that wants to move half clinic, half remote, or something like that to start with. Um, but they're a part of the team. They've got good communication with the other therapists that are the quarterback on the field doing the
They're
thing.
the coach. They're sort of the go between.
And so that's the model that I believe benefits the patient the most, makes things run most efficiently in the clinic as well. Um, and so that's the workflow that I preach as the most efficient, successful RTM model. So what I did was wrote a course for Phil, basically in mind. He's the guy that I ran into. And so wrote a course with him in mind saying, you're motivated. Let me take you from everywhere from choosing a platform to proposing this to leadership to designing the workflow to training. As much as I can take off your plate, let's do that. And then finally, what do you do with these codes to bill? So built that course. And then on the flip side of things, trying to present it to owners to say, this is what works, and let me guide you through what works well. Um, Finding that individual, or how do you allocate time to your staff to make this work? Because I'm afraid that RTM is getting muddled again in the space. It's really exciting. People hopped on before too many people were prepared. Then
Right.
that kind of faltered out, and now there's a little bit more research. But then where do we go from here? So I just want to make sure it's done well, and that's kind of the message that I'm presenting, through the two courses I wrote.
So you're teaching therapists how to build programs themselves. You created a course. You're like, hey, listen, if I create this for a friend or one clinic, this works for most, if not all. Like, I don't want to say it's just a universal fix, but it's a process, right? So it's understanding this thing that everybody was looking at and like, okay, that's cute. I'm going to wait for someone else to jump in though, because I don't know what this is, but that's what we know what early adopters are. What do you
Right.
think, or what do you come across as one of the biggest misconceptions therapists have about RTM, and what's the reality when it's done right?
I think that the biggest misconception is it represents RTM when you chunk it apart. It represents a lot of what us therapists do already. Honestly, there's a lot of things that go in. We supply something to our patients that's going to support the research that we know the change happens outside of those two magic 45-minute sessions a week, right? Like the change really happens with
Sure.
habit, strength, mobility, with the patient doing their stuff outside. So that's something we provide already. If we can capture that and demonstrate that, then we can bill for that time. Um, the extras that we do outside of the clinic in support of the patient and what they're doing, that goes in and wraps up into other um, billable codes too. So I think I was funny. I was thinking about having a chat with you, and if you want to insert this clip afterwards, it's great. But what came to mind was Tommy Boy's in the cafe with the roll and his pretty new pet, you know. And I feel like that's what happened initially, where clinic owners were like, "Oh, well, I'm just gonna ask my therapist to just do this stuff and bill for it, and all of a sudden we can bill." So all the questions that I got were, once a platform was chose, how do I bill for it? And it's like, whoa, there's a lot in between there where you're establishing a program. I mean, if you were going to offer a niche specialty like, I don't know, TMJ in your clinic or something like that, right? You better have somebody that took some courses on it,
Right.
marketed it to the dentist, to, physicians, and did all that stuff, owns it, runs it, and then that becomes a profitable extra,
Sure.
niche that you can offer. Um, it's
But I
not
think
too dissimilar when you talk about RTM.
I think all right, here's a question. What would you do with an extra hour every day? It's not a trick question. That's what a bunch of physical therapists are saying after switching to Empower EMR by MW Therapy. It's built on automation and AI. So basically, it becomes your clinic's co-pilot. It keeps your schedule full, handles billing like a pro, and cuts way down on paperwork headaches. But here's the kicker, it's not some generic system. It's made for physical therapists by people who know what you deal with day in and day out. You want more patience? Done. Easier documentation? Done. Less stress? Yes, please. Empower lets you be the hero of your clinic with happier patients, less burnout, and better profits. Book your demo today at mwtherapy.com and see why switching just might be the easiest win of your year. I think you said some important words, right? From an implementation standpoint. I always like to ask this question because it speeds things up. If this goes bad, who gets in trouble? Because if nobody owns it, then it's not going to get done right. So that's why you're
Right.
saying like someone in the clinic should be the owner of this.
Mhm.
And so if it goes poorly or goes well, like it's not just who gets in trouble, but like that's the fastest way to figure it out, right? Like if this doesn't do what we think it'll do or it underperforms, who gets in trouble? Or the opposite question doesn't work, because if I go, if this goes well, who gets patted on the back? And everybody's like, me. I'm like, no, 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 no,
Yeah.
no. I want to know who's worried about it if it doesn't go right, who gets in trouble. That's the person who needs to understand it so well from beginning to end. From you compared it to like if you're going to install a TMJ service line, who's going to start, where are the patients coming from, how do they get here, what does our marketing look like on the website when they get here, do we have the right tools, and then what's the follow-up? Like somebody who has to own the process from beginning to end.
Yeah.
Same thing with
100%.
RTM.
100%. On surface level, RTM seems easy. We're doing a lot of this already, so let me bill for it. There's a lot in between there that needs to be accounted for, and nuances that occur. These codes weren't just slapped out there to give us props, though they do. There's a lot of nuances that make sense, that it's a whole combination thing. It's a whole program that relates to each other in terms of the codes. So much focus is on the codes. Let's make the program thing and let's designate somebody. And I think that owners are missing a good chance to award somebody in their clinic that
Sure.
ability to do that. And then shoot, come on, let's stand up, PTs. If you desire to be off at 3 o'clock, but still want to make some money, like go spend 3 o'clock until 7 o'clock with your kids and then do this stuff afterwards. You can still, like, you can make life happen. So it's an
and be
opportunity missed.
and be able to actually hit those goals with
Yeah.
those patients. They want to hit those goals. And we've said there's 168 hours in a week. Let's say you get 2 1-hour sessions, and that's pretty good, right? What do you do? How are you able to help affect change the other 166 hours a week with your patients? The codes are there. When you drop those codes, they get paid, right, Matt?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. For the most
now
part,
there's
yeah.
a gap, right? You started this episode by saying, listen, the tech people don't understand clinical, but vice versa. Clinic doesn't understand tech. So there's a gap. We always say, I want to fill the gap, right? Find the gap. Here's what that is. So you mentioned before, there needs to be a platform, right? We don't want someone managing this with sticky notes and stuff, because that's what PTs will.
No.
That's what we'll do. We'll do it poorly. We'll start doing sticky notes, and that'll work for an hour, and then 2 hours later, we're going to hate it, and we're going to throw them all away and say it doesn't work, right? So
Yep.
what should someone, a clinic or a therapist who's going to quarterback this, look for when choosing the right RTM solution in terms of a platform? Like what are the non-negotiables? What are need to be and nice to have?
Yeah. Great point. Thanks for bringing that up. So, and I kind of um, have had the opportunity to touch, see, meet with a lot of these developers that are out there too. And so another service that has proven valuable is, let's talk about your unique situation. Almost like, well, insurance agents exist for a reason. They want to match you up with the best insurance and stuff. So there's agents to fill that role. Maybe I could be your RTM platform agent. We talk about your clinic.
That's a
What
good
are your
idea.
therapists good at? Where do they, what does your current organic workflow look like? Because that's step number one. You want to mess with a PT's time as little as possible, make as few changes as possible. So what are you using already? What are they used to? Um, what kind of clientele do you serve, and where do you want to provide an extra boost to their care? Let's start with those kind of big things, and then we'll funnel down to, okay, here's a couple of your choices. Go talk to those guys and see what they offer in the way of EMR integration, or all of those little slimming down to make things simple, as fewer clicks and
Sure.
nuances for your therapists. But top is, what's going to serve the patient? What are your PTs already doing, possibly, that you could leverage a platform or make something better in your offerings to your therapist? And then how streamlined can it be with interfacing what you're already using for EMRs and that kind of stuff?
Somebody who's still listening to us yammer on about RTM, if they're still here, right? What's
Yeah.
what's something that you would like sort of satisfy or begin to satisfy their curiosity? If they're like, all right, cool, I'm that guy 2 years ago, 3 years ago, who's like, I don't know where to start. Where would you send them?
Yeah. So I talk to me.
Yeah.
Come and talk to me. Jimmy's going to probably list a way to get a hold of me. That's fine. Come and talk to me. I offer, some free time that we can just talk RTM and what it means for you. What are the nuances? Um, Pick up a podcast, read about it, inform yourself, educate yourself on what it is, more than just the codes and how to build the codes.
Sure. That's the
Educate
end,
yourself on
right?
what it is. Yeah.
The codes are the
Right.
end, because everything has to come before that. Number one, you have to have the right patient. You have to have the ability to fill the gap, right? You have to have the tech meets clinical. The fact that the codes are there is a nice little, like, pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. You have to understand that what's that process to get there. Make sure that it's reliable, good. Make sure someone in your clinic wants to do that, is able to do that, is empowered to do that, understands they own that. And then, yes, when all those things fall into place, that pot of gold is sitting there. And we've been saying this for years. I am actually a little shocked more people haven't adopted RTM as quickly as possible. And here's the other thing that I know that I was going to say. The fact that tech companies are investing in creating the platform for this tells you that people outside of healthcare see the value in this. They wouldn't be creating the platforms and apps unless they saw the closed loop, the ROI.
What's really cool, talking to several of the CEOs that are creating these platforms, they were patients that wanted this.
There it
So they
is.
made it,
There
right?
it
Like
is.
like your patients want it. And if you get something, your patients. So when you're looking at platforms, get something your patient's going to want, that's
Yeah.
going to help them. Um, So yeah, there's totally a need for it. It does take some startup time to figure out the
Sure,
processes,
all good things should.
but it's going to allow you to afford to give your patients better care and support your staff in different ways, you know?
Yeah, well
Yeah.
said. All right, Matt, just let them know. Is there an email address or a website? Like, say it, and I'll put it in the show notes too. But
Yeah, sure. So, keeping overhead low, right? It's a Wix site.
who cares?
But
Who
yeah,
cares?
so who cares, right? So I think it's like Jurek Matthew dot Wix Osprey RTM. What I'd suggest doing is get a hold of me through LinkedIn.
Okay.
All the clicks for the
Yeah.
is there. So you can either search for Osprey RTM Solutions or just Matt Jurek. Either one will get
Cool.
you there, and that's a great way to get a hold.
All right, we're gonna play a game, Matt. You ready? I didn't prepare you for this. We're gonna play a game.
Oh no! All
It's a
right.
bonus segment. You're gonna nail this. So the game is called RV Life or RTM Life. You got to pick: is it RV or RTM, or it could be both. And then you can give me a little explanation if you want. But you don't have to. Okay, here's the first question. Requires a strong Wi-Fi signal at all times. Is this RV life, RTM life, or both?
I'm gonna go RTM life because we have lived in some pretty remote places. However, Starlink is very helpful.
Ah,
We can hook it to our battery. We can run it off of our battery. So, oh boy, that's both. Darn it, I'm changing my answer.
yeah, both. Yeah, you always need Wi-Fi.
Yes.
We've passed the point of no return where you sort of need it. You might want to be able to turn on airplane mode every once in a while, but we
I
need
guess that's what I get to call vacation when I turn it off.
turn it off.
That is my vacation because life's a vacation, honestly, with what I get to
Well,
do.
your life is a vacation, Matt. Yes,
Yeah.
and it could be. Takes longer to set up than you think, but once it's rolling, it's smooth. Is that RV life, RTM life, or both?
Both.
Yeah.
That's both again. Hmm.
Yeah, you got to prepare for RV life because I'm sure you're like, it's going to be easy. And then you're like, where do we shower? Or like, how do we do these things? And you're like, okay, but once you figure it out, it rolls smooth. Same with RTM, I'm guessing.
Yep. And there's still both of them. There's still bumps in the road too. We had to have
Oh.
an axle fixed the other day. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, stuff you didn't
Yeah.
expect.
Yeah.
Occasionally gets disrupted by wild animals. Is that RV life, RTM life, or both?
I have treated many patients that I would consider animals that would disrupt my life. Um, but I'm gonna go to RV life more on that one.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll be
probably.
nice to
Good.
my patients. I'll give them
Good.
props.
No wild animals in RTM.
Yeah.
Two more. People constantly ask you, wait, you can actually do that? Is that RV life, RTM life, or both?
Both. That's
Yeah.
definitely both. Yeah,
And
for sure.
the final one gives you way more freedom than you expected. Which one? Or both?
I got to go with RV life because the freedom that I've had there. RTM, you still got to deal with people that are gonna tie you places. But hey, jump on the RTM bandwagon and assist, and who knows where it could go. Be the next like my buddy's gonna be the next Arkansas RTM guy, and freedom can come. Yeah.
Yeah. Matt Jurek, look him up on LinkedIn. He's going to be your RTM Sherpa. He's going to be your RTM GPS. There's the
There
RV
we
connection,
go.
your RTM
Whoa.
GPS to make
Whoa.
sure you go from lost to found. Matt, keep doing this because I think 5 years from now, this will be obvious. Someone's going to listen to this in 5 years and be like, well, obviously that's the way we're going. It's not obvious now, but I'm glad that it will be, and you're going to help people get there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm along for the ride.
Well done.
RV.
Good RV drop.
I'm a dad.
Let's be real, you didn't become a therapist to be average. You've got something in you that wants more mastery, more impact, more confidence in the clinic. That's exactly what Brooks Institute of Higher Learning delivers. Their residency and fellowship programs aren't just resume builders, they're transformation zones. You get one-on-one mentoring, deep dive classwork, labs, and real-time experience inside one of the most advanced rehab systems in the country. And the best part? You're not grinding this out on the side. You get a full salary and benefits while you train with the best. Whether it's ortho, neuro, peds, geriatrics, women's health, Brooks IHL helps you become the expert you know you're meant to be. Check out brooksihl.org to learn more and take that next step.